Welcome back, everyone. As we did the meditation, now after the meditation, we usually do the talk. So we have separated this into two slots. So hope that will suit some people. At least you know when the first part is meditation, the second part is the talk. So the topic of today's talk is mainly an extension. A question that came from the talk last week is about how to practice this selfless conduct of a way of practicing altruism. How do you practice altruism? And then that came about as a result of that. One should practice the altruism in an engaged form of practice, such as the 6 parameters, and during which it's said that there are 7 pitfalls in doing any of the 6 parameters. So today I'm going to talk about these 7 pitfalls or 7 attachment that can hinder one's quality of the actual practice of generosity or practice of giving, for instance. Because when we talk about needing to be kind and selfless to others, we often do that by giving our time or our energy or our things or money or whatever the things we give, And so the thing that we give is what actually makes someone a little bit happy by giving that, because it can cause them to become happy, or also it becomes an act of loving kindness, because if we give, the giving will make them happy, and then also if we are able to give something that people are not happy, and by giving that it can relieve their suffering, so it becomes also an act of compassion. So you can see the generosity is the actual thing that you do. Even if you love somebody, even if you have compassion to somebody, even if you have altruism, you're really selfless. You got to do things that actually makes them to relieve their sufferings and cause them to become happy. So that is really what we call loving kindness and compassion. With altruism is you're doing both of that, but with the intention to liberate them, to establish them on the state of Buddhahood. So that's really what boils down to practice. We have to talk about why generosity is very important. First of all, is because generosity is the one that makes ourselves useful, not only ourselves useful to someone, but also our existence become meaningful, that we can make someone happy or be of some assistance or be of some use and service for others. Then we are still definitely alive, and we literally have lived that day. On a day that you practice generosity, out of loving kindness and compassion, you definitely feel that day was useful, hour was useful, or thing that you gave was useful, and therefore it has. Otherwise, even the things that we have are ephemeral. One day we won't have any control over them, let alone being able to do good with it. They may become the very hindrances. So therefore, if we practice generosity, not only we make other people happy, but we also become happy, because what makes us happy is not the things, but good things we do to others. That can really make us happy. And also, even if you see someone practice generosity to somebody, and then you are also become very, very rejoicing and very, very grateful with that, because when you see generous people are generous to each other, and then you have good reason to be happy, unless you're jealous of them, their generosity. So you can see that generosity is is such a virtue. And then if one so therefore the need to practice generosity is so important. It's not just not just with the people or with the religious reason, but just to live, just to be staying alive. We are alive because we are completely at the generosity of other people. What we have and what we are all generosity of other people, be that your own body, be that the education you have, be the resources that we are using, be the knowledge we have, be the place we live or things we do. All these things are mainly facilitated by each other. So without giving, we are not alive, really. We without the generosity, we cannot live. So therefore, giving is living, they say. So when we talk about the pitfalls of generosity, how do we make sure that living is not impeded by the pitfalls of generosity? So there are 7 things. So 7 things that we need to be aware of that may jeopardize the very act of giving. The question isn't a thing whether we give or not. We definitely do. But often our giving is impeded by one or several of these 7 pitfalls. The first is the attachment to the possessions, to the things that if we attach to the things, then it is one of the reasons why we are not able to give, and one of the reasons why we are not able to give to anyone is because we are attached to the things, because we are attached to our time or money or resources or whatever. If we attach to the possessions, things that we have, then we, instead of being able to cause someone happy and relieve their sufferings, our attachment to the possession becomes the very thing that prevents us from practicing generosity. As a result of not being able to make someone happy, our own possession that we have becomes a burdensome, become an additional burden to us, because we become we are attached to the very thing we have. So it's like having a feeling of mine, and as if it's parting from us would make us a lesser of a person. So we become very materialistic. So the attachment to the things becomes very materialistic, and therefore things become more important than people and relationships. So therefore there are even close relatives, even loved ones are fighting. They think they need each other, but they are fighting over things. The reason is they're attached to the possessions. They're attached to small things. They're fighting over a rug, or they're fighting over a family heirloom, or they're fighting over a chair or whatever. Something like that is usually cause of the conflict. So that's why why is attachment to the possession, attachment to things, makes us so mean-minded to the extent of not seeing the big picture, that what good can be served by practicing generosity. Generosity, giving, and possessiveness is not giving. So therefore, possessiveness is attachment to the possessions. So if you have not been able to make someone happy, or therefore yourself also not happy, this is completely related, by the way, it's because you have been attached to the possessions, the things. And if it is interesting thing is, if you are not falling in the pitfall of the possessiveness attached to possessions, then you're a lot happier. Because why? Because you gave things, be that your hour or time or effort or material things or ideas or whatever you give. People are so time poor, isn't it? Time poor because they're so attached to time for me. For me is more attached. So they're so attached to their time for myself. Therefore, they could not give time to others, and they're largely miserable because they are attached to their time, their things or whatever it is. So you can see why it's a pitfall, but attachment to possessions. So that's the first one. First, the second one is that every person actually have every intention to give, and they believe in giving. But when it really comes to the time when they give, it's not quite ready. They wanted to give, but not now. So that's attachment to postponement. They will say, I will give, I'll give you in my will. I write in my will, but they don't write it now. Or they don't give it now. I don't know why people have to wait until the last minute. Where is the last minute? This is the moment. You see the virtue of giving, if you're not attached to the thing, then you shouldn't be attached to the second one tomorrow or a week after, a year after. So wanting to give later. So this kind of delaying, they call postponement, procrastination, wanting to do it today, when yesterday we said it was tomorrow, and then today we say tomorrow. So in the way, the day and weeks, years drag, and then for lots of people, sufferings and problems and conflicts are because they have not giving things when it's meant to be given. So they're delaying, and then they become forgetting totally. So therefore, postponement of giving. Say if you wanted to say sorry to somebody, which is quite a wonderful giving, but if but you didn't want to say it today, you don't want to say it tomorrow, and when you say you should do it today, you say no, I will do it next time. When is the next time? So the reason why you haven't lived very well is because you have postponed the actual generosity. Whether it's saying thank you to somebody, whether it's actually I'm for apologizing to somebody, or actually repaying their kindness, whatever. We are willing to do any of that, but not right now. Not in the time that we are in the meantime. Always thinking of postponing it. I will do it later. I'll do it next year, and next year, and next year. And in the meantime, one is so attached to postponing. Basically, there is no real intent to give because the person hasn't woken up to see the merit of giving. He thinks giving is a big chore or something. Giving is some kind of a religious chore or something. He doesn't realize giving is the cause of our unhappiness, and he's delaying his own happiness, and he's also, of course, delaying someone else's happiness. Because of that, one has the pitfall of postponing the generosity. Whether we are not talking about huge things, we are talking about small things. You said you will do that to somebody. Okay, do that when they need it most. And if it's not so, that's not the same thing. If you did it next year because they don't need it then, or they don't need it tomorrow, and then even you want to do twice as much, but that's not necessary. So you have basically not been helpful to yourself or to others. Because everything has a timeliness of it. If you do something on time, then it's useful. So if you said, I will go and get up and switch off the kettle or something, you can't keep delaying. If you keep delaying, your whole kettle will, burn off. And so like that, you gotta do it punctually. Punctualness is usually a sign of living. People who have discipline do things on time, whether it's paying debt on time or saying thank you to somebody, or saying I please apologize to somebody, or giving something when somebody really needs it. That generosity is the timeliness of it. When people don't get given when they need it, when they get given when they don't need it, it will be rejected. So that's why the generosity has to be very timely. So one should therefore be wary of the danger of getting attached to the tendency one has to delay. For instance, if you really know that this nagging feeling with someone, you should apologize or thank them or clarify something, you just don't do it in delaying. All this ill will has been in delayed goodwills, so that when you delay one thing and two things, and then even the well-intending motivation become completely soiled by the postponement and procrastination. A lot of people are depressed because they have so many things well behind their schedule, well behind what is expected of. When they look at their things, you can see they're not done. You can see they have not been attended in the real time when they need, and because of it depresses them, because they are behind schedule, they call it. Because firstly they don't have schedule, and even if they don't honor it, because they don't honor their schedule. They don't have any satisfaction to themselves, nor can they be answerable, reliable to other people, because they are not be able to do things on time. So generosity really means loving kindness. How do you show loving kindness to body? How do you tell them you love them, or you care for them, you feel sorry for them, you wanted to help them, and you will help them? If you have said those things, then it will be much better if they actually witness that you said you will do before it's too late. So everything is about timing, timing, it's a magic. The giving is nothing unless it's given on the right time. They call it when the medicine is, you need it when you're sick. So therefore, giving is usually to allay somebody suffering, to make someone a little bit happy, to console someone who's a little bit depressed, to give advice to someone who's a little bit lost, and being able to do something when they really need it most. That kind of timeliness of generosity is very important. A lot of people have delayed, and they say they'll do this later. And this kind of thing has nagging, and delaying has a lot of negative karmic consequences in delaying, postponing. And the reason why we don't get many things that we deserve in this life is because we delayed in the past life many things, and therefore everything to happen, things are taking much longer time. So the attachment to postponement. So say if your mother is ill and sick and old and so on, or somebody in your life needs you to do the things, it's good to do when they need you most. One day you'll be regret that I've wasted all those time delaying, and that's why lots of people's depression and anxiety comes, because they really don't want to do it on the real time when they need to. So that basically, instead of becoming attached to postponing and procrastinating, one should make a timeline when I should get ready for that, and when I should be ready to do that, and so on. So then you will also boost your own confidence and self kind of confidence. And otherwise, there is a very low self-esteem, because person could not count on themselves. Why? Because they are behind schedule. They are not doing this on Monday, they didn't do that on Thursday, they have this, everything is lagging behind, and that can be very depleting of your own confidence and self-esteem. So that's why bodhisattvas are those who have things to do by such and such time, because he can't let any sentient beings to be ignored or neglected by his own choice, but he rather have a commitment to do that by such and such time. These days when they say in the first aid or when you call an emergency, they say that they will arrive in 8 minutes. They call it. They don't say I will come in 8 days time. It's what's the point of calling 000 if they're going to come in 8 days time? And they usually within eight minutes, sometimes even quicker than that. Last night I saw, these 2 police cars coming at someone's home, one after another, because they're like policing the well-being of sentient beings. So you got to show up there, be at time. They got up early, put on the uniform. They're waiting there in readiness to go when people need you there. Not delaying, procrastinating. So that's some of the lots of people's failures in life is because they have postponed things. So how can a person who want to practice loving kindness, compassion, postponed act of love, act of compassion, act of generosity? It's only generosity is only now when they need it. So if you have a hot cup of drink, hot cup of soup, you got to serve it when it's hot. You don't leave it there not served until it gets cold, and then you want to serve cold. Do anybody want to drink a cold soup, in the cold weather? No, So it has to be very hot. And they say, I need to be hit when it is hot. So like that. So therefore, the timeliness, not get attached to postponement. Second is postponement. So that means, what do we learn from this talk is, maybe I should, I have delayed this to reconcile with them. I have postponed this one to do that. I will not let this happen. From today onwards, I'll pick up this discipline of doing things on time, giving schedule, and stick with it and honor that timing. And that is a bodhisattva. Bodhisattva means people who have responsibility. They have responsibility to somebody in themselves, and particularly to be of use to other beings. So that's the second one, is how to avoid the pitfall of postponement. And the third pitfall is the complacency, or thinking that what one is doing, how many times you help somebody is good enough. I've done my bit. They say, I've done my bit. Now it's someone else's turn. That is that kind of attitude. As a good has some limit or something, You don't say like, I've eaten so many times, I don't want to eat for next 10 years. They don't say that, Why doing something good for the others has to have a roof or ceiling? So putting a kind of saying, I've helped him 5 years, that's enough, they say. And that's exactly that. When you put a bar or a ceiling to how much you will help to somebody, and then you are not a bodhisattva. Because you're so mean in terms of what little you did, you think is sufficient. You think that is more than enough. Of course, there is a skill, there is an importance of how to moderate your effort. It doesn't mean you do all of a sudden with great keenness. There's lots of people who come with a lot of over-enthusiasm, and they push everything for a little while, and all of a sudden they completely run out of steam. They just disappeared, and they have nowhere to be found. It's because they think that what they did, they're attached to what they did, firstly. And secondly, they think they cannot be doing. It's someone else's turn, they call it. That means when they've been doing, they have been doing very, very unwillingly. So therefore, even the motivation to give wasn't there, let alone the quality of what they gave. So that's why the person has suffered from the pitfall of complacency, and putting a ceiling or putting a limit on how much good one will do. As if you can't do more, if you save 3 people from the flood, doesn't mean, I've saved already 3 people, now let the 10 people die. Do you say that? No. If you have saved 3 people, it's even more so that you can save another 3. Why? Because it's more is merrier, they call it. They don't say the less is merrier. It's not a Buddhist saying more is merrier. If you are doing good, like generosity, if you have help somebody, people usually become some kind of fatigued. They don't want to help that anymore. They say, I've helped him so many times, and they become somewhat fatigued, and compassion fatigue. They go, compassion fatigue. Compassion fatigue comes from this feeling of that how much good you are willing to do, and not more than that. So mean-spirited in the sense of wanting to put a limit how much you will help, as if helping somebody cannot exceed by such and such. It's not as you're not allowed to. Because being able to do benefit others is because others are infinite in number of sentient beings. Therefore, you can't say I'm not going to do him. You think it's only doing to one person, but it's not. If your attitude is right, you're doing not just to this person. This just person happened to be the nearest kind of port of call. But actual altruism should not be limited by people on time and space. You should do it not because who it is to, but why you what you believe in doing. If you believe in giving, if you believe in practicing loving kindness and compassion and so on, and practicing generosity, therefore, how can you possibly put a bar to it? Is it because you think you're spoiling somebody by giving so much time or energy? Maybe you are. That's right. It's not because you have to give less. It's how you give, with what intention you give. If your intention was to benefit them, it will benefit them. As simple as that. But if your intention was something else, that's probably the reason why you are a little bit complacent, why you are suffering the third pitfall of complacency, is because you're starting to have some attachment, some other forms of attachment, so this will be covered by next the other ones. So the fourth one is the generosity. When you practice generosity, people usually do it. What's it in it for me? They say, if I give this to me, what will I get? So that's called attachment to rewards in this life for oneself. So attachment to rewards for oneself. One is actually wanting to benefit others, but one is thinking of reward for oneself. So that's why the wanting reward for oneself, they call hidden agenda. The hidden agenda that one has for oneself is the one that actually is become a biggest kind of a pitfall in the effectiveness of giving. Some people give a lot, but that doesn't benefit the people they help. Reason is because they have suffered one of these 7 pitfalls. One of these 7 attachments, or 2 or more of them, the more, of course, they have, that much bigger a problem it creates. For instance, this idea of what is it for me, some reason why people suffer from compassion fatigue or donor fatigue, they call it donor fatigue. The donor fatigue is because they want some reward in this lifetime. They don't even have to question whether it's rewarding or not, if the generosity is good. If they practice genuine generosity, there will be no need to think of need to practice. The farmer never doesn't say that, I farmed so many years on this farm, I'm not going to farm in this year. Because he has reaped so much harvest every year. He knows very well that what you give is mutually beneficial. Therefore, you don't have this strong reward-seeking mind for your life. You don't even need to. It's pretty much a kind of a bygone conclusion that if you practice generosity, the benefit of it is you don't even have to question. So when one is seeking some more reward and therefore fatigued by having to do the generous things, why people are tired of generosity, because they do not. Either they didn't get some kind of worldly satisfaction that they want for their own this life. They say that they don't have. So lots of people have practiced generosity, are mainly giving not because for themselves to be rewarded by this, but it will see the reward by giving to others. When they can see other people smiling or a little bit more peaceful, a little bit more contented by our small act of generosity, you become instantaneously, contented and satisfied. You do not have to seek any other hidden agenda as far as what reward I will have, what kind of bonus I have. All these people, people who work in banks, always talk about bonus, always talk about how much percentage benefit they'll get, and they're always talking about how much is it there for me to get, They don't do it as if the benefit of what they do is already very, very instantaneously rewarding, rather than thinking of what is it for me. So when one is attached to a particular reward in this life, then that pretty much stifles the one's motivation or ability or fitness to be able to benefit others. Some people give, and they give very little, but what they give benefit others, have amazing power to benefit others. Other people give a lot, but it doesn't seem to benefit the purpose nor themselves. So it's like a plantain tree. They say plantain tree looks very straight and tall, but when you cut it, it's hollow inside. It's like that. A lot of people do many impressive things outwardly, but deep down they have no sense of satisfaction. The reason is because they have this hidden agenda. Me, what is it in for me? What will I get? When they have that attitude, then what they do doesn't really even benefit themselves temporarily, let alone in the future, let alone benefiting anybody. So the generosity, that kind of generosity, is ineffective, and a lot of so it's like a crops that you can have this all the hair growing and lots of grass, but the grains has a very poor yield. Poor yield. The grains are nearly empty. Just shape of grain, but it's just empty. It's like that, like that. A lot of people's life is like that. They put so much effort, but they have no sense of satisfaction or joy or purpose because they have some other hidden agenda. For what is it and for me? So this selfishness goes against. Lots of people do so many things outwardly for others, but deep down in their intention, it's for me. What I'm gonna get in return. Now this is the what we call the fourth pitfall. Fourth pitfall is always thinking, what is it for me? What is it in for me I get? Did I get anything? Am I getting anything? No, I'm not getting anything. And as a result of that, who want to do the thing? Who want to do that? And they always look for what is it in for me. And it's basically, this is not a shock or surprise, because that's why sentient beings are sentient beings. They're not Buddhas. They're always thinking of themselves. Because of that, even though what they appear to be doing for others is sabotage from the very unconscious mind of self-centeredness and what is it and for me. And this is not cognizable to other people. This has to be consciously conceived and apprehended by oneself. The bodhisattva has to develop an eye for details in terms of what is in one's intention. If the intention is impeded by sort of reward-seeking mind, then no matter how impressive and looking thing that you perform to the delight of others, it's going to have very little satisfaction. Why? Because it is havoked by this wrong intention. So the attachment to seeking reward for oneself in this life. That's the fourth one. The fifth one is seeking result in future lives. So this is, if you don't believe in future lives, probably you can avoid this pitfall. You just give. That's it. You have to give. Who needs it, and whoever needs it can use it. And it doesn't have to. You are not seeking any particular outcome or benefit. Later, you just know it has to be done. So it's just like you use it for when it is necessary, whoever case, and without thinking, if I give this, I'll get something in next lifetime. And that kind of a belief is probably a bit of a pitfall for Buddhists, because Buddhists always believe in good karma. It's good to give good karma, as if it's not so much. They think I will get good karma if I give. I will have a higher rebirth, or a tall body, or handsome body, or good life, or good health if I do this. With those intent, if I give, see, then the intent of giving to somebody is just for that. It will have very little effect on the people to who you're trying to help. If your purpose is to help somebody else's well-being and happiness, for temporal and ultimate happiness, and to remove the suffering and cause the suffering. If you did that as intent, then you will not be having this hidden agenda. What will I get if I do this in next lifetime? Caught a lot of people please do this so that I will be born in higher rebirth or something. even though Buddhist teaching talk about the existence of next life, but one who's so fixed about future lives and how good I want to have, that's not even Buddhist, let alone Mahayana, let alone Bodhisattva. Someone who's seeking just a higher rebirth. They're seeking more samsara. That's right. So what kind of next life you want? More samsara. So next life is another samsara. Remember that. So seeking some betterment, better job, or better position, or better this, or better that, next life is just seeking more samsara, So that is a pitfall of generosity. Lots of people are always thinking of what it will have benefit to me. And I've got a lot of culture Buddhists are like that. Do this, you be born in a good family, or people even pray, may they be reborn in a good family. I mean, if a bodhisattvas don't pray so that I be born in a good, bodhisattvas probably pray, may I be born in the hell realms, Because late Khyentse Chökyi Lodro's wife is said before she died that she will pray to be born in the hell, so that where she's needed most, She never said, may I be born in a pure realm so that I have a little dry and cozy and calm place for myself to be born. I mean, a lot of this what do we call Pure Land Buddhism, or people who are always praying for in Sukhavati, all these things are according to Mahayana, is not really Mahayana. You can't have bodhicitta that is always thinking of me in the future. And firstly, if you really understand law of cause and effect, it will be rewarding anyway. Secondly, that you are not, this person is not going to be the same person anyway. So therefore, seeking something for oneself in the future by doing this, it seems like a very, very hidden agenda, where the whole intention is about what is it for me, not only in this life, but also in future lives. It looks like more greedy, That's sometimes probably better people don't believe in the future life, but just do it for the benefit of others. Not thinking of what a good merit and virtue that I will have in the future lives. Even though elementary Buddhist teaching talk about karma, and if you do this will the result. If you do this, that is the result. We say this, but when a person is really embrace the kind of conceive the profundity and benefit of practicing altruism, then he or she must do the altruistic thing by not having this particular fixed intention or aims for oneself. So it's another form of those selfish chittas, wanting for oneself in this life or next life. The purpose is that. The purpose is that, Purpose isn't to benefit somebody else who is hungry, than to alleviate their hunger or their thirst or their sadness. If you're not doing to alleviate them, you're doing this so that you can get that. So that's why the fourth and fifth are the two. One is attachment to this life, seeking reward in this life. Another is seeking karmic fruit in the future lives as the intention. So generosity, you therefore, deliberately go and give to everybody on the street because you wanted to create merit for your next life. But if you give randomly whenever somebody needs it, not just because you feel like it, because they need it and you give it, then that's real generosity. That's it. So you have no fixed intention for your future life. You just want to give for whoever that it is. Don't even know their name, So randomly giving whoever that it is for the sake of them being able to have a leg to walk on, or like say, I know one monk in Nepal. He does the help the street dogs. So he's helping. They just go and help street dogs. So that if they are hungry, if they're injured, or they're fed and they are cured and they are nursed and so on. That's all. But we don't do that so that you will have a better leg in next life or something like that. Intention is that, forget it. That's why it's pitfall 4. There's more danger for Buddhists, this one, because they believe in future life so much. they're so fixated about what lives they want to have in the future. So they're so interested in samsara, So those are the fourth and fifth. And now the sixth one is the attachment to miserliness. That means just miserliness itself. It's quite miserliness. The attachment to miserliness itself is different from attachment to the other five we talked about. Yeah, just miserly. Just basically, person is so attached to being miserly. They just always think of, I won't have enough. I don't want to use this. Oh, I may not have enough next time. Always thinking like this, and therefore becoming very, very miserly. And it's really, really committed practitioner of miserly. And how do you know they are attached to miserliness? They're miserable. They're miserable. Their misery comes from not because they don't have that or they don't have this or that, because they're always thinking of what they don't want to do, how much they don't want to do, and they're so attached to so little or nothing. And so because of that, they're miserable. Their miserliness comes from their whole addiction to not doing anything. Not doing anything. Some people don't want to take up any responsibility. They want to be included sometimes, but they don't want to take any responsibility. Why? They're attached to miserliness. Either because they don't have time, they think they have no time. Yeah, they are miserly of time. Or they don't have energy. Or they're miserly of energy. Or they don't have the kind of other things, whatever. Or they don't have that. Because everything is convenient for them to not to do anything. So how can a bodhisattva put his hands up to benefit sentient beings, but when it comes to doing, it's never convenient. It's too much. And so that's why miserly, the attachment to miserliness doesn't mean you have to give, empty your wallet, or doesn't mean that. Meaning that even you don't have such material possessions, if you don't have material possession, that's not your fault, But having the ingenuity willing to do something, is most important one skill of our life. So it's some people's idea they give, their effort, their skill, their knowledge, their experience. They could give those, People may say your time, but most importantly, that willingness. The miserliness is unwillingness to give. Full stop. Say you don't want to apologize. That's it. You think you will lose your face or something. Yeah, you're attached to miserliness of forgiveness, and therefore you don't want to apologize. You don't want to say thank you, because if you say thank you, you're so miserly about thank you, because only few things to thank, and you don't want to use them. If you say thank you, you might not be able to say thank you ever again, because you have this feeling of running out, because you probably have got nothing. The person who is generous don't feel miserly. They don't think of what they don't have. They just do it when it's necessary. And it's a magic. It's a magic because it makes your own temporary life very meaningful, and it doesn't allow you any of your time and space wasted in being miserable. Because word miserliness means person. Miserliness is a noun, but person who does it, go miser. He's miser, and then he become miserable. And simple as that. The miserable is not someone who doesn't have things. Is that someone who hasn't got this abundance of willingness to do. So generosity is abundance of willingness, ingenuity. When one is now putting a bar or putting a capping, no, I won't do. Because of that, he or she is attached to miserliness. Because miserliness is antithesis of generosity. So how can a person be generous, not generous? Because the generosity has impeded by his or her miserliness. So attachment to miserliness, whether saying, I don't have enough, this is all I have, or I can't do this is too much for me. All this me preservating, all trying to preserve for this me, They become so addicted to the I, And that is cause of their misery. They don't know that. Why we are encouraged to practice generosity? So that we get out of our poor meanness and go out, be some useful. You wouldn't believe as a result of you doing something, how much people appreciate, rejoice, and how much it means to them. It may have been too little. You might think, I can't do much, I'm no use. That kind of self-belittling is so harmful. Cause of many people's depression and anxiety is because they are so self-belittling, self-sabotager. So that's very, very harmful. So therefore, it is important to not say what you don't have, but what can I do? And always willingness. Just look for advice. Is there anything I can do? And because of that, people really feel motivated by you. And it just brings the good out of them. Why? You're so generous. You're not so miserly. You're not so unwillingness to help. You're willing to do. It doesn't mean that you have to impress everybody. You don't have to try to outshine other people and look so great. It's not those purposes. We're not talking about the generosity. Doesn't mean that you are trying to outperform other people. Generosity is this amazing kind of abundance of willingness to help and do, and if you're not needed by anybody else, so you're not miserable. So you don't feel, oh gosh, I'm not counted. People think I'm not good enough. You have a lot of joy. You can read, you can wash, you can rest, you can do all the other things. You're abundantly happy. Why? Your happiness comes from generosity, and not from miserliness. So doesn't mean that to be generous you have to only do generous to other people. You could be generous to yourself. Just go and look after yourself. Do some good things with yourself, to yourself, and you're generous. And people are so miserly they don't even want to spend small things for themselves, even let alone for others. So that's why the person who is not miserly he really knows what he has. He knows how to use things for the sake of the purpose they are warranted. One day they won't be good. They will be used by date, will be expired. So therefore you will use it. And then your life is so short. So therefore you are always joyful. Why? Because you're generous. They say one person who is generous has joyful. The people who have joy are those who are generous. And those who have no joy is because they're miserly. They're really putting themselves down so much that I don't have, or I can't do this. It doesn't mean you have to impress the world. You can still do a few things with yourself. And don't be so belittling to yourself. Whatever you're doing is good. Just take delight in that, take pride in it, and that will delight you. That will bring joy in you, and you will not have any sign of the sign of miserliness. So that's the sixth one. Now the seventh and last one is the attachment to conceptualization, attachment to the idea of, even if you did all of the above very well, you didn't suffer any of the first 6 pitfalls, but you did practice generosity, you did various things, and then that's the attachment to concept is that I'm generous, And then I want to really think, look at what I did. And then become attached to this, to the attachment to the generosity. And then think what you did is truly existent. So one has to therefore see that the danger of attachment to I am generous, unlike him, unlike them. Even you have been generous, even you have been generous, relatively more generous than you are past. And if you still attach that I'm generous, you are not. Why don't you give? Almost like you are very averse people who are not giving because you've been giving. So that kind of, that attachment to the either the generous thing you did, you're attached to that, or you're attached to someone who you give to, and yourself as the one who's giver. If you're attached to either of these 3 as truly existing, that's called attachment to concept of generosity. One should know that even generosity is not inherently existing. Even if you practice generosity, you really did all the things you did, but you still should not think that I'm so generous. You may be generous, a little bit generous than say last year or recent months or so on, but you should still think your generosity is not truly existing. The generosity you practice is because the thing that you gave is not yours. Thing that you gave came from someone else giving to you or whatever. So therefore, you have no reason, nothing to get attached to that is you to who's giver, and what is the giving, and to whom you do the giving. These are all interdependently originated. Whatever is interdependent originated, it does not truly exist as a conceptual thought. So therefore, conceptually thinking, I'm generous. How do you know that you have this problem of thinking I'm very generous? Then you talk about other people being not generous. Why is he not generous? The generous person doesn't beg other people to be generous. The other people's neediness of someone to give makes us opportunity to practice generosity. So our generosity only is relatively generosity in the presence of someone who needs our generosity, someone in the presence of someone else who also doesn't practice generosity, then only our generosity has a role. Say if somebody says, "Can I borrow someone's pen?" And then you have a pen, and and your pen is not true cause of generosity, nor is the person who asks it. It's all dependently originated. So your willingness to give the pen and having the pen and someone needing the pen are all mutually inclusive. So mutual inclusiveness, knowing that mutual inclusiveness doesn't allow you to have mutual exclusiveness. So you are not inherently generous person. To think that is attachment to concept. I'm generous, or my pen is the one that really helped you become attached to the pen, or because he asked me, I really want to give him, not you, not them. So you're attached to the object so fixatedly. So that kind of fixation to concept of object, concept of what you do, concept of the actual doer as yourself. This concept, attachment to these three, is what we call a pitfall of generosity. So when next time, if you did practice generosity without any of these first six pitfalls, then the last seventh kind of pitfall is seventh and last is the most dangerous ones. It's not that we have few people, we have not enough people who are generous, but we have lots of people who are generous, but they're attached that I'm a generous person. so that I am generous person becomes the attachment. Pitfall of the generous person is thinking I'm generous. He actually should think I'm not. My generosity made possible by his willingness to receive what I give, so that I'm totally grateful to them. So the one could not voice that I'm generous, because your generosity is not truly existing. It totally depends on someone. So one is more gracious that someone asks of your help. Instead of being that we are being a help to them, they actually help us to reduce our attachment to ephemeral possessions. So with this in mind, if you practice generosity, then you will not suffer from any of the seven pitfalls. How do you know? Your generosity has made you feel free from attachment to whom, to what, and how much, how long you gave. It's not. Everything is just like a fresh day. If tomorrow you want to help somebody, you don't see, I helped you yesterday, I helped you 2 years ago. You don't have this concept. Why? Because you don't have suffer from any of the seven attachments. Because of that, your willingness to help someone is not impeded, because you don't suffer from any of the seven attachments, let alone all the seven of them. So this means that this doesn't mean that people will immaculately practice the generosity without any of the seven attachment. They will they will be generous. Ungenerous person becomes generous person. Generous person becomes a little bit more aware how attached he or she is to their possessions, and then they realize that's terrible. I should really make this useful to give instead of keep. So that is then slowly they will eliminate each of the attachment, and this gradual process of eliminating the gross attachment through the medium, and medium to subtle, and subtle to the subtlest, then one is able to completely practice perfection of generosity. That's perfection of generosity is where your generosity is completely cause of enlightenment. So therefore in Buddhism we don't take the monastic a vow of poverty. It's actually a vow of abundance. They don't think they haven't got anything, or they don't. There's a vow of abundance and humility. We say bhikkhu. Bhikshu really means one who solicits virtue by practicing humility. It isn't that so. Just because one is an ordained person, is not as if they have kind of a right to be supported by other people and demanding and making a big nuisance to others as if, why am I not supported? I'm a sangha. That kind of attitude is a completely opposite to the very sentiment of a person, a mendicant who have renounced miserliness, renounced attachment. If they have renounced miserliness and attachment, they don't complain what they don't get given, do they? They should be contented with simplicity. That contentment to the simplicity is the contentment. Contentment is the highest gift of generosity. So if one is complaining that people don't give me because I'm an ordained person or something, that totally defeats the very spirit of it. Why? Because that's what it is. Because that's what it does. You can see the miserable person. The person who is very, very contented with his or her way of life he's chosen as a monastic or whatever, you can see they will never go hungry. As long as they remain sincere and faithful, they will never go hungry. And Buddha has actually promised that his sangha will never go hungry. If his sangha go hungry and cranky, it's not to do with people not being generous. It's themselves not being the genuine sangha, who is always seeking, expecting somebody to give them, even though they will, but they don't even notice they already are. Because they're that miserly. They're not generous. They're not grateful for the things they already have. What they already have been given, they don't see. And how much more people give, they will ever going to see that they are given to them. So this is ungratefulness. So when someone is ungratefully bastard, bastard, if so, mind my language, he's an ungrateful bastard. That's right. This person is actually suffer from all the 7 pitfalls. They don't see the generosity of other people. They don't show any sense of contentment. They don't have the calmness and serenity of a monastic practitioner. They're always making noise what they didn't get. It's like a hungry ghost. What kind of karma did they create in the past to firstly, nobody asked them to. In Buddhism, we actually discouraged. I actually discouraged quite a lot of the people who say they want to become ordained. I said, please don't. We think carefully. Even people taking refuge, we dissuade them. They think they have done some kind of a service to somebody, as everybody owes them to something. And maybe we do, but we will try our best. But the whole attitude with which one approaches that very much, defeats the purpose of trying to practice humility and contentment. Contentment is that the contentment, the person who has this contentment don't have this miserableness feeling of what I didn't get and so on. So it's very important people should meditate. That you have all this feeling, oh, my but dad didn't love me, or all this kind of feeling. All this. You don't have to be monastic. You just people have this, all of this. He didn't do this to me. He didn't do this to me. I didn't get any love. I didn't get any care. I didn't get any attack. All this list of poor me, what I didn't get. Yeah, exactly. You're all You have all the causes of discontentment is misery. Why? Because you're fallen into all the 7 pitfalls. You fall in the pit of all pit because you haven't got any of the skills and how to practice generosity of abundance of gratitude. So that's why a bodhisattva is one who understands bodhicitta. Remembering bodhicitta themselves is so abundantly soothing, so relishable. And when they have dharma, everything else is pretty secondary. And you don't complain about what you don't have when you have dharma. But one who's seeking something else, and then they use the dharma as a cause of what they don't get, and then they become so miserable. So it's important what one shouldn't say or write about what one didn't get. It's very dangerous. So one should, if one who shows contentment and gratitude, has grace, has a demeanor of a bhikkhu. A bhikkhu means one who is serene in his simplicity and contentment, and happy to live on alms. And don't go around telling what you didn't get all these years, all these weeks, all these months, that I didn't get loved my parents, I didn't get this from these. You get the litany of complaints what you didn't get in life, and then you tell that as your story, That's what the cause of all the depression is. That's falling back to the problem of selfishness. So the bodhicitta is trying to overcome this fundamental root cause of suffering. So that's why it's important to practice altruism, but altruism shouldn't be kind of Mahayanist thing. Altruism should be cause of enlightenment for oneself. It's called enlightenment thought. How does it enlighten you? How do you wake up from this poor me mentality? That which wakes us from this poor me mentality is altruism, because it wakes you up from this slumber of me. And that's why it's important. One who is a true, there is a whole chapter in the Dhammapada, what is a true monk, or what is a true ordained person, or what is a true practitioner, or what is a true Brahmin, or true monk, or whatever, true person. Then you can tell. Buddha said those things specifically. So we should read those things and try to understand the meaning and meditate on their meanings. And then you will have lots of things to rejoice. And instead of anything to complain. Why? Because you are not falling in any of the 7 pitfalls. But you are practicing generosity, abundance. When you have this generosity of thinking, I'm grateful, I have a precious human rebirth, I have freedom to practice Dharma, and so on. When you start delighting yourself, then you will be greatly boosted, and no illness will touch you, no curse will hurt you, no even a pandemic will come and touch you. It wouldn't. So when one sees by this demon of selfishness, then even you're not affected by a pandemic, you are already affected by this me-demic, me-first-demic, pandemic of meanness. And bodhicitta is trying to quell that. So that's why we need to remember this warning of how to avoid either of the 7 pitfalls, and then learn to learn to grow through this practice. So with this, we'll conclude here. Thank you very much, everyone. We have to do this pre-recorded today because I got something on the weekend. But anyway, please feel free to send your question or comments and like and share mostly. I'm told you should tell people to like and share. Because a lot of people only react to the things, but they never share. Why? Then maybe we're not saying something that is worthy of sharing, is it? So it's good to share and like or dislike, even comments. You can send some questions. You're most welcome to do. I'm completely happy to receive them and answer them. So thank you very much. With this, and now we do the dedication merit. Jamba bawe chidran jamba dang kundu zangbu teyan de jendo deda genje jezo dalo je gewa de da dam je ra do ngo by the mere mewe overcome da de fa men zangen on may I libere open from the ocean of all designated courage man jushi ni otin as Amanda Badra de la following all the example I shall dedicate all the matter may the excellent boy digida Teba where it has not yet done so where it has been born may it increase freely without degeneration. Thank you, everyone. See you next time. Take care.